Yeah.
Play some goddamn Vengeance, man.
Why should I play Vengeance, fool?
Because you're immortal in meta, dude.
But meta is on a long cooldown, dumbass. You don't know shit. And Vengeance is squishy as a banana.
Man, get the fuck out of here. Let me tell you a story about Vengeance Demon Hunter. Once upon a time, there were talents, gear, essences, rotation, and a lot more for you to know about Vengeance going into raids and dungeons. So stick around watching this guide because we will cover all the basics and fundamentals that you need to pick up the spec right now and go smash some faces. Or in this case, get smashed in the face because you're a tank. Hey! If you like this nerd and if you like that nerd, then come check us out on This Is Living. It's our second YouTube channel and we do lifestyle videos, talks, discussions, and general, good vibes about life and other things that happen behind the scenes where we don't do our main Marcelian&Online channel, which is our WoW channel. We already have a couple of videos out and don't worry, it's not going to take anything away from the WoW channel, but it could be a bonus for you if the topics are something that you'd be interested in. So after you're done with this video, go check it out because we're gonna be talking about the best tank in the game. And this video is the best guide for the best tank in the game. Called it. No? Don't think so? Well, just you wait and see. On the first row, you want Abyssal Strike as the default option. This will improve your leap ability by making it more frequent and with a higher range. The uses for it are numerous, essentially catering to what you need and how creative you are. The universal uses are straightforward: dodge mechanics, kite boss or dungeon packs, deal AoE damage, and this is even extended with another option down the road. And that option is not Fallout, which will be the choice you make on the second row. The talent itself makes your immolation have a chance to shatter souls, which are an integral part of your self-sustain and a major resource you need to manage for either of the two builds we will be discussing. With this, you want to really prioritize casting Immolation Aura, especially in AoE situations. There are very niche situations where Feast of Souls could provide you with a bit more sustain, but generally you should stick with Fallout. Third row, Flame Crash is the talent down the road we mentioned that goes with your first tier option. This essentially turns your Infernal Strike into a DPS rotation option, especially in AoE. Sigils have a few uses on their own, and pairing it up with the Leap skill will give you an increase in uptime on the damage version. Say it. No. Say it. It's stupid. Say it. But it's such a bad... It increases the uptime of the Sigil of Flame. Da-na-na-na. It's the motherfucker D-O-double-G. Yeah, you know what's up. Next row is the first row with some options. The default for all content is Fracture. It replaces Sheer and the general mind numbness of the Vengeance rotation of Sheer Spam. Oh, this is so fun! I am spamming an ability to generate resource. Oh, so nostalgic, just like 2004. I hope this accurate explanation as to why Fracture is better will suffice. It does the same thing as Sheer, but it's more potent as a GCD cast and smoothens out your rotation to bearable levels. The alternative is Feed the Demon, which isn't used as much anymore. Barely actually. But it does provide a bit more tankiness on long fights where you don't have to swap tanks on bosses. Seeing as how pretty much every boss needs to be tanked alternatively, your demon spikes generally recover for the next session of face smashing. On the fifth row, we have two options again. Concentrated Sigils is the raid version of the increased duration. Them being placed at your feet is also a bonus, but other options are lackluster when tanking a raid boss. If you are doing mythic dungeons though, consider taking Sigil of Chains. This acts as a mini AoE grab similar to what Blood Decay has, but but with a smaller area of effect. The grab has multiple effects. It can dislodge certain mobs, interrupting spell casts that cannot otherwise be interrupted, like the Add and King's Rest and so on. Apart from interrupting the mobs from various actions, it also makes it easier for your group to DPS the pack down, and this is a major tool you would do very well to learn how to use. Next up, we have the 6th row and the build defining row. The starter build we recommend you take, especially for lower content, is Spirit Bomb. This is an extra ability that gathers up to 5 souls, deals massive AoE damage, and applies a debuff to enemies that heals you when you damage them back. There is no cooldown on this ability, so the debuff can have 100% uptime. Plus, getting this skill will kind of force you to learn a bit how to manage souls, and that's a very important skill to have as a Vengeance Demon Hunter if you want to tackle harder content. And if you do end up pushing very high content that needs you to be more tanky, take Gluttony instead. It will give you a random meta proc every now and again. Sure, it's random, but there's also the Vision of Perfection essence that will proc it every now and again, and between these two you'll have quite a bit of uptime, giving you a chance to recharge your Demon Spikes cooldown, not to mention heal up while you are in meta. On the last row, all options are viable, but with niche uses. Last Resort will be your general go-to. Even with Gluttony, you are still squishy since it only reduces the damage you take while you actually have meta on. Last Resort is good in all content and especially on progression rating. Soul Barrier is an amazing damage absorption, particularly useful against magic damage that is predictable. So you kinda have to know when you will take the damage to be able to prepare this in time. Void Reaver is usually the weakest and taken when the other two do not see any play. And to be able to see any more play for Marcelian&Online, you have to enable those notifications for videos and such. And if enough of you push that little motherfucking bell thingy, maybe we can avoid doing these smooth transitions. Do a fucking smooth transition to the next section, man.
Okay.
If you want to sim your stats, you'll only get the best damage dealing weights, which will take no survivability into account, so keep that in mind. Otherwise, the general community accepted stat priority sees haste at the top, with versatility a bit lower or sometimes even equal to haste, then mastery, and lastly crit. If the two items you want to choose between are only 5 eye levels apart, then go with the best stats. If they are 10 or more eye levels apart, then go with the eye level. The difference in strength is not that high, where you want to sack all that stamina and agility and everything that comes with those two. Haste is fairly straightforward, reducing the cooldown of Demon Spikes, most important, Immolation Aura, Throglaive, and Fellblade, which we don't take anyway. The Demon Spikes is the most important one, followed by Immolation Aura, seeing as how we have the talent which lets it shatter souls. Versatility is a flat damage reduction, healing, and damage dealt increase to your character. Vengeance has probably the highest self-healing in the game and kind of revolves around it more than people would think. Versatility cannot be overstated how important it is. Mastery and crit provide tankiness as well, either through armor or parry, which are both good. This means that you don't have to go really out of your way to ignore these two, and another reason why eye level can be a good determining factor for gear even if it doesn't have haste and versatility. Taking the stat discussion into the trinkets, you should have an easier time choosing specific stat trinkets, and we recommend you play and practice with them and see how they perform. There are a few trinkets that are good to have and perform pretty well at the same time. Edict of the Faithless and Bloodthirsty Urchin seem to be very popular, and I personally enjoy very much playing with them. They offer a decent amount of absorb and heal, which works good for classes that prefer versatility, since the stat is what the trinkets scale off of. They drop from Ashvane and the Court, and if you're still struggling to get them, or if you are doing dungeons and not raiding at all, you can opt for Alchemist Stone and Machimba's Ritual Bandage, bandages. You can probably see a similarity between the two sets of trinkets, and there are more in the game like this, essentially trinkets that provide some kind of healing or shield for absorption. There are also trinkets that can give you large damage boost and build your character to essentially maximize the amount of damage you can deal while still surviving the encounter. This kind of playstyle is a little bit more advanced, and we recommend for you once you get comfortable with the spec and understand the encounters you will be tanking. You don't want to deal damage and die after a few seconds because you are not as tanky as you could be. A good source for info for details like this is the Fellhammer Discord channel, which we highly recommend you guys check after you're done with this video. Please watch the video until the end. Moving on to the Azrai system, oh boy, we have a bunch of traits that provide all sorts of benefits. However, the strength of them is something to be discussed. Unfortunately, tanks haven't been blessed with strong tank traits, so some simply go for generic stat or raw DPS output, which you can also do. However, we will recommend a safer build to start and aim for as you go on your vengeance journey and soon hit that 8.3 patch. In raids, Revel in Pain stacked 3 times will be your usual goal. It functions similar to trinkets, where you can get a chunky shield that absorbs damage depending on how much fire damage you dealt to the target that had the fiery brand on it. 1 hour of reaping is also a very good trait to have, mainly for the soul barrier it can proc. Essence Sever gives you a chance of extra souls, which is always nice, while Rigid Carapace and Infernal Armor provide you with a bit of extra tankiness in the forms of bonus armor. In dungeons, Revel in Pain can still perform decently if stacked 3 times, but you really want to get a few of the 1-point wonders here at least to start you off. Hour of Reaping is solid again, Essence Sever is a lot more useful in AoE situations, and Cycle of Binding provides you with cooldown reduction on seals. This can be even better if you are running Gluttony, since you lose out on a lot of damage that way, and more seals with damage is good. Not to mention the Silence, Fear, and Chains seals are incredibly useful in dungeons, and between all of these you'll have a decent uptime on this vengeance mechanic. A quick mention has to be made about the secondary trait Soulmonger. Having this baby can really improve your survivability. As far as the essences are concerned, you can play around with all sorts of options, but the main ones will be similar to other tanks, and all of this provided you have them at rank 3. For your major, Vision of Perfection completes the Gluttony build, and it makes it viable to the point where in prolonged fights on higher keys or tough raid bosses, you'll have a decent uptime on Metamorphosis. If you are raiding and farming bosses and the content is a bit on the trivial side, you can swap it for Crucible of Flame, but we still maintain our argument on dealing damage. Your minors mostly depend on the major damage source you will be tanking. Nullification Dynamo helps a lot with magical damage, regardless if it's raiding or mythic plus. Conflict and Strife is a flat chunk of versatility, one of the largest sources of versatility that you can have consistently, and Ages of the Deep will be a solid choice in dungeons if you plan on pulling a lot of packs. If you manage to get these at rank 3, chances are you will have a solid start in the next raid tier as well, as far as the essences are concerned. Anything else is dependent on the meta. When you tank, you essentially have 2 sets of buttons you press for your rotation. There's the builders buttons that you press for damage or resource generation, so you can respond to a situation or prevent a situation from happening. The other set is the active mitigation options, which you align with the encounter, how the damage is coming out on you, and judging which is the best way to deal with that will set you apart from other tanks. Your main active mitigation is Demon Spikes. It increases your parry chance by 15% and armor by a big chunk for 6 seconds. It has 2 charges and a 20-second recharge time that is reduced by haste. Clearly, you will not have 100% uptime on this. You want to use it where there's heavy melee damage coming, either from a very large pool or certain bosses that have 1 or more consecutive swings that will chunk you hard. Fiery Brand is a 1-minute defensive cooldown that reduces incoming damage from the one target that can be affected by 40%. The flat reduction is decent, but the fact that it only works on one target is a downside on non-boss fights, so you will need to prioritize the most threatening target with it. Soul Cleave is essentially a filler spell most of the time, but can be used to provide additional healing in a pinch, even though you will use it most of the time to dump pain or if you don't have anything else to spend your souls on. Now that you understand how you deal with incoming damage, let's look at how you can prepare for that situation. Assuming you are running Spirit Bomb, you want to prioritize it above all else once you have 4 or ideally 5 souls. Fracture and Immolation are next on the list to generate pain or souls. Try to not cap on either, especially souls, since on Spirit Bomb builds that will mean you will lose potential bomb casts. Soul Cleave next, like we mentioned, mostly as a filler. Sigil of Flame to fill in with damage, shear or fracture depending on your talent choice next, and lastly, when there's nothing else to push, go with Throw Glaive for that little boop damage. Souls will be your main resource, and maximizing them will make a big difference. In an ideal situation, you should never choose between capping pain or capping souls, but if something fucks up, souls are more important. We talked about stats and how to gear properly, and although haste and versatility are almost equal, almost all the time haste will be better. But you can take anything we recommend here and swap them for their versatility equivalent if that is more to your playstyle and liking. As such, a Cord of Haste and Quicksand Spinel will be your most used consumables. These and the weapon enchants Force Multiplier and Versatile Navigation should be something on you at all times, as a sign of good conduct if anything. The Verse enchant for the weapon procs in a more favorable way, which beats the Haste Always rule. Flask and Potions should be agility focused. There are situations where you could get stamina if and when you know that extra HP can save you from a mechanic. Otherwise, agility gives you damage and tankiness, and both help with ending the encounter quicker and preventing a bit of damage from needing to be healed in the first place, which stamina does not. Lastly, Feasts are a safe bet if they come free from your raid group. Or not, I mean, my guild is very generous. Otherwise, take Baked Potatoes for that sweet, sweet haste buff. A lot of work has gone into making this guide, and we like to shout out a couple of people that have made this possible. First of all, we want to do a special shout out to Galexar, a Vengeance Demon Hunter that actually cleared Ajara, and as of mythic Ajara, of course. And as of recording of this video, he's ranked 39 in the world leaderboards, at least of the Vengeance that we know of. Another special shout out to Panthea and Monkey, specifically to Monkey as well as the Vengeance Demon Hunter admin, that gave us a lot of feedback and insight to how a few things work that we might not have been able to figure out on our own. And if you guys want more advanced tips, you should check Monkey's guides on Icy Veins and Wowhead about Vengeance Demon Hunter, and of course join the Fellhammer Discord channel, because a lot of top Vengeance Demon Hunters talk. There are a lot of the things that we don't really have the time to put into one video, because there's a lot more to talk about, especially if you plan on doing harder content like mythic raiding and pushing keys about, say, plus 15. And we will never forget and appreciate our Patreon support. We say this in every video, guys, and we've said that in every video, and we haven't said this in every video, so this would be a first for this. But thank you very much, guys. It really means a lot for us that you're supporting us through Patreon, because it's one of the most reliable sources for us to receive your support and have a little bit of assurance going into the future when it comes to content creation. And if you are interested as well in supporting us a little bit more, then the Patreon link is down below, and there might be some goodies in store for you. And with that being said, thank you very much for watching the video, and we will catch you in the next one.